The winner is Art Carney in. Thank you, Glenda, ladies and gentlemen, and members of the Academy. Art Carney won 6 Emmys playing Ed Norton. He beat Al Pacino for an Oscar. But when his famous co-star from the Honeymooners died in 1996, he said nothing, not one word. Everyone in Hollywood paid tribute. Jackie Gleason's family sent flowers. Former cast members cried on TV. Art Carney stayed silent. She had called him brilliant and gentle in her memoir. She hoped they'd talk again someday. They never did. What happened between them was darker than anyone knew. Art Carney was born on November 4th, 1918, in Mount Vernon, New York. He was the youngest of 6 boys in a deeply Irish Catholic family. His father worked as a newspaperman, but what shaped Art more was the alcohol that flowed through their home like water. 3 of his older brothers were alcoholics. His father drank, too. Art once said, "Most of us boys were non-smokers but drinkers." Yes, that wasn't just a comment. It was a warning. He started drinking as a teenager, not casually, not socially, but regularly. He grew up thinking alcohol was just part of life. It wasn't a matter of if he'd fall into it, but when. He had talent early on. One of his best tricks was impersonating Franklin D. Roosevelt. He didn't just sound like him. He was him. The voice, the pause, the tone. People listening to the radio thought the president was actually speaking. It got so convincing that federal agents got involved. They were worried it might cause confusion. During the war, foreign diplomats even mistook his performance for real speeches. It was dangerous, but it also made him a star. He later used that voice on radio shows, mimicking not just Roosevelt but Churchill and Eisenhower, too. By 18, Carney was already performing with Horace Heights Orchestra, thanks to his older brother. It sounded glamorous. It wasn't. His roommate was Fred Lowry, a blind whistler. He also introduced Art to morning drinking, not coffee, gin and grapefruit juice every day. At first, it felt like freedom. No rules, no guilt. But that freedom quickly became a cage. He was addicted before he even knew it. He remembered one moment clearly. He was too drunk during a live broadcast to even spell Tums, the sponsor's name. He slurred his way through the ad. Sponsors were furious. He left the band at 23 before they could fire him. Then came the war. August 15th, 1944, his 4th wedding anniversary. He was in France with the 28th Infantry Division serving as a machine gunner. A German mortar exploded nearby. Shrapnel tore through his right thigh. He hadn't even fired his gun yet. Never fired a shot, and maybe never wanted to, he joked later. But the injury was no joke. His right leg ended up 3/4 of an inch shorter than his left. He limped for the rest of his life. 9 months in recovery, 1 Purple Heart, and 1 deeply wounded man. He came home with a medal, but also with scars that no one could see. His limp was obvious. The trauma wasn't. He drank more. He used barbiturates. He started taking amphetamines. The war had lasted only 2 months for him, but the effects lasted forever. He had breakdowns. He couldn't cope with pressure. And nobody called it PTSD back then, but that's what it was. One breakdown in 1965 even forced him to quit The Odd Couple. It would take him nearly 30 years after the war to finally get sober. In the late 40s, Carney was everywhere on the radio. He worked with Milton Berle, Fred Allen, Maury Amsterdam. He was the go-to sidekick, the second banana. He could do any voice, any joke. But behind the mic, He was drinking more than ever. Sometimes he slurred on air. Sometimes he blacked out. And still, they kept hiring him. His talent was too rare. Producers worked around his drinking instead of confronting it. After the war, he faced a big problem. Could a limping man succeed on television? He found a way. He had custom shoes made to balance his legs. But he didn't just hide the limp. He used it. He made it part of his comedy. His odd walks, his dance moves, they weren't random. They were survival. He turned pain into performance. His fans never knew. They just laughed. But the truth kept chasing him. The drinking got worse. He had already been on the edge with Horace Height's band. And now his drinking was back with a vengeance. When he left the band at 23, it wasn't because he wanted to. It was because he had to. He was a liability. His addiction had already burned one bridge. Many more would follow. He tried stand-up comedy. It didn't work. Not because he wasn't funny, but because the stage terrified him. The crowd's faces, the silence, the pressure. It triggered his anxiety. He drank to calm himself. Then he took pills to sharpen up. Then he needed more pills just to sleep. He'd created a vicious cycle. Fear, drugs, shame. Repeat. The same man who made radio stars shine couldn't handle a spotlight on his own. Even his personal life was haunted. He married his high school sweetheart, Jean Myers, in 1940. They had 3 children, Eileen, Brian, and Paul. But the marriage cracked under the weight of addiction. Art Carney almost didn't make television history because he didn't believe he belonged. In 1951, when radio writers suggested him for a sketch with Jackie Gleason on Cavalcade of Stars, Carney thought it was a mistake. Gleason was already a rising star. Carney didn't think someone that famous even knew who he was. It wasn't false modesty. He had been quietly stealing